everybody. Yes, I am late again. Sorry. Technical difficulties once again. If anybody wants to help me out, you can donate to my buy me a coffee and I can buy some equipment that works. Just making sure I'm going live to all of my platforms. Looking good. Happy Sunday. I hope everyone has had a good weekend. I did. I took Saturday off. It was my wedding anniversary, 7 months, I think. So took the day off, stayed off social media, which I think was a good thing in the end for my mental health, but I'll get into that tonight. Lots happened this weekend, I know, especially in my home state of Western Australia. I'll be talking about that tonight. I think we are all good. Just checking there's no bugs. Good, good, good. Well, g'day everyone. I'm Kate Fantanell, or Lady Liberty Australia, and welcome to my regular live streams. I made a promise to my followers that I would do one of these every week. So I did one on Wednesday to make up for missing last Sunday because I was sick and couldn't talk, but I'm feeling much better now. So happy Sunday night. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Like I said, I took Saturday off. I never really take a day off. I did do some work in the morning. But then Mr. Liberty said, you need to relax. You've had a very stressful week. Seems like I've had a lot of stressful weeks lately. So he took me to the beach, had fish and chips and a few beers, and just tried to detach from society for a while, give myself a bit of a break from everything that was going on, especially on social media. I have received quite a few screenshots from people about yesterday's gun rally in Perth. So thank you to those who contacted me and told me what was going on. I was sitting at the beach with my husband and enjoying a beer and watching the sunset, and then I was getting these messages of screenshots of things people were saying on social media about me, and I'm no stranger to criticism. I do cop it a fair bit. Funnily enough, it proved my point that the biggest attacks I get is not from the Labor government or the commies or the anti-gun community. It is from shooters and hunters and people in my own community, in the walks of life that I've sacrificed so much of my life to defend their liberties. So it hurts a little bit more when it comes from people that you're trying to defend and fight for. So thank you to everyone who contacted me and gave me a bit of a pep talk. So I really appreciate that. I'll just jump straight into it. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hello. Please put your questions, comments in the chat. If you were at the gun rally yesterday in Perth, please let me know. I've had a few people message me and tell me what they thought of the event, so thank you for that. The first thing I wanted to address is those comments on social media. There was quite a few on all the different channels, and people were criticizing me because I warned my reason for not supporting the event was because of the risk to the individuals who would attend. I was very concerned about the presence of WAPO and police officers being at that event, especially because it was held in an area where police can stop and search without a warrant, wand people, which they have been doing in that area, and also the CCTV surveillance, which is across that whole park where people were gathered peacefully to protest the gun laws. The criticisms I was getting is that there was no police there, there was no wanding, there was no one taking photos. So Kate Fantanell was wrong, she's crazy, like all those sort of things. Interestingly, the majority of those comments that I saw came from a member of Shooters Union who is quite common on social media, tapping away behind the keyboard, criticizing people for having a different opinion to the establishment. And that's what I think it's about. I think anyone who goes against the establishment, and by that I mean the big shooting organizations, the ones with the money, the ones with the power, the ones who have connections to the politicians and the police, if you say or do anything that criticizes them or makes them look bad, they will come for you. And that's what happened yesterday. I'm so disappointed, but not surprised that that is the comments that were on social media. I know there's a few on Aussie Reviews page too. Some of my supporters have asked him to take them down. I'm not about censoring people. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion as long as it's not threatening or degrading. But for me personally, I just had to take a step back and just remind myself why I'm in the fight. And it's not for people like that who want to criticize me because of my opinion on on the rally. And the reality is, there was CCTV and is CCTV in that area. So, yes, they didn't need police walking around with cameras or phones to take pictures of attendees. They were sitting in their ivory towers with their CCTV cameras, looking back, looking at everyone, scanning their faces, and putting that all in a database. So, yes, I was wrong in terms of physical police presence. I don't know if there was um, non-uniform guards, people in the crowd who were undercover cops. I don't know that because I wasn't there. And I made a conscious decision not to go to that event, not just because I'm spending time with my family and I treasure all the time that I have because I was locked away from them for 2.5 years. So any time I get to spend here with my parents, my brother, and all my family, I will do that. And I was going to go to the rally at the start. I was invited to be the MC. But as soon as I started questioning and pushing back and saying, no, I will not be a mouthpiece, I will not read a script, that is not what I'm about, that's when the relationship started to sour. And since then, of course, the comments on social media yesterday against me, just another attack from people I've fought for. And I think the disappointing thing for me really is, what have these other people who sit back and attack me actually done to advance liberty or protect our ownership of firearms in Australia? What have they actually done? Have they run for office, which trashed my entire professional career? Did they go to the police minister's office with a poster of them shooting a pistol and say, give gun owners a fair go? Have they gone out of their way to do anything? Anything? Work within politics? Work for politicians who align with my views and the views on protecting our liberties? What have they actually done except sit on social media and criticize me the first chance they get? So please, you are welcome to have any opinion in the world on me. That's fine. You're entitled to that. I will never censor you. I believe in free speech. That is a fundamental right that we all have. But when it comes to personal attacks and putting me down, other reports that I've heard from the rally is that it was a great day. It was a great picnic in the park, a great chance for people to gather peacefully and listen to interesting speakers. Professor Augustus Zimmerman, I've heard him speak before. He's a friend of mine, actually. I can't wait to see him in Perth. He's a bloody legend. He is the author, of course, of the Law Reform Commission report, Project 105, which went through the gun laws, the old gun laws, and gave the government direction on where they should change them and what they should look like. And of course, he is rightfully angry at the government because they did not even take that report into account when they wrote these new laws. So he's a fantastic advocate for liberty in WA, and I'm so glad he was there. And he definitely would have been great to go along and see. So that was great to see him there. I saw Dave Brown flew over from Queensland. He was acting president for a while when this event was organised, so it's only right that he fronted up. I did hear his comments that about politics, that it will chew you up and spit you out. And funnily enough, that's what's happened to me from Shooters Union. What happened in Queensland, which I still cannot legally talk about. What happened with the gun rally when I went against and started saying, no, this is not right, let's do it this way. Chew you up and spit you out. That is what the establishment and our organisations do. I would be very interested to see how many new members Shooters Union have gained from that event. I did not see any media coverage at all about the event. And I know that was one of their goals, to get in the media so people, the general public can understand that there are people who are genuinely upset about the laws. Of course, we've been upset for a long time now, since March 2022 when they doxed us. This has been 3 years. It's 2025. I keep forgetting. It's been 3 years of this. The government know that we're angry. We had that petition that Nick Gorian organized. Dr. Brian Walker also had another petition that went in that had great numbers too. So people know, the government know that people are angry. So this event, painting it as this is your only chance to stand up, it's just not correct. It's not correct. And people have been very vocal for a long time in WA about how we feel about the laws. I know I was on the ground. That's why I ran for the Senate against the gun laws, because I saw what was happening and what was happening to my own community. So it was just wrong to present it as this is your only chance. We are angry and the government knows that. My concern is that because of the low numbers of attendance, that might present to the government that we're not a significant voting bloc. There wasn't enough of us. And instead of Shooters Union, who were the organisers, taking responsibility for that because it wasn't organised with enough people who supported that format, including me, they'll say that it's our fault, that we're apathetic, that once again it's the shooters. No, if you had listened to the concerns, and it wasn't just me, I was in meetings when Shooters Union were begging other organisations to support the event. And the concerns that the other individual organisations raised, which were different to mine, concerns I hadn't even thought of, they had their right to opinion too, and they didn't support it. So I don't think that the event achieved the goals that the organisers set out. I'm glad that people who attended, who have messaged me, said they had a great day out in the park. That's fantastic. I hope you got some great information from it. And I hope you know that you weighed up the risks of the CCTV, which was there. That's that's not a lie. You can't criticize me and say that I'm crazy for saying that. That's the reality of that situation there. So anyway, if you did go along, I've got some comments. Hello to everybody. Sorry, I've been a bit fired up today. It's just been, I think it's at the point now in my life when I've been active in this community. Well, I worked for SSAA back in 2013, so a long time, and I've been a hunter and a shooter since I was a child. So I think it does take its toll when you're the one who's doing this alone. As I continue to say, I'm not supported or sponsored by any organization. No one donates money to me from any significant organization. It's just me. I'm one person who's committed my life to this fight because I do not like the injustice that has been delivered with these laws in WA and the other things that are going on in other states. I'm in South Oz at the moment where I was born, and there's things happening too here. I'm getting messages all the time from shooters around the country who share their concerns and tell me things that are going on behind the scenes that genuinely keep me up at night. And I'm trying to help everybody that I can, everyone that I can, but I'm not an organization. I don't have a lot of money. In fact, this has cost me my professional career because I've been so outspoken, especially when it comes to firearms ownership. I couldn't get a job in Perth after my Senate campaign. Mining organisations, despite the fact I worked for the South Australian Chamber of Mines and Energy, couldn't get a job despite that background, despite working for NOPSEMA, which is the oil and gas regulator. The only condition of employment was if I would delete all my social media and not criticize the government. And of course, even though I was broke and starving, I would never do that. I'm never going to be silenced for a paycheck. So this is why I'm in the position. And I know it's everything in life is about choices, as my sister reminds me, but I can look myself in the mirror every day and say that I know I stood up and didn't bow, didn't kowtow to the establishments, and didn't give an inch, because once you give an inch, as we know, they take a mile. So I'll jump into the chat. Having a Jameson tonight, so look out. Most people get angry when they drink rum, but because I'm half Irish, Jameson does something to me, so I apologise in advance if I'm getting fired up. Okay. So sorry for the audio. People are telling me that the audio wasn't working at the start. That's because I've got rubbish equipment. So if anyone wants to help me get more professional gear, please buy me a coffee. That's my, or it's actually buy me guns or ammo. Um, but that's a link that you can donate if you want to help me out. I'm sorry about the shit audio. Bad audio is a hate crime if you ask me when it comes to podcasting. So I apologize for that. Pig Hunter says you're spot on, Kate. That's why I didn't go to the rally. And everyone has the right to make a decision that suits their best interests, and nobody should be made to feel bad for not going or bad for going. That's why I have said I never told anyone what to do. I would never, ever tell anyone what to do. Everyone has freedom of choice. So if you didn't go because of your concerns, um, I agree with you. And if you did go and you had a great time, that's great too. Everyone has a right to express their opinion, especially when it comes to politics and the government, however they feel fit. And good on Shooters Union for putting that event on, because obviously with the crowd that they did have, there were people who did see merit in that. That's fantastic. We'll just see what the blowback is in terms of the police involvement in that event. And there is something I wasn't going to mention it, but I feel like I have to. The reason why I was so concerned about WAPOL's involvement in that event is because I was in the initial meetings about the event back on Boxing Day. Yes, I gave up more of my time for free to try and help an organization because I'm all about the cause. And I think people take advantage of the fact that I'm so passionate about I'll do anything for shooters in Australia. And Dad said that to me as well. He says sometimes he feels that organisations take advantage of my passion and commitment to the fight, and he's probably right. But I went to those meetings in good faith because I initially thought it was a good idea. And then as meetings progressed and I didn't agree with how it was being organised and the setting for the event and a lot of other things, that's when I stepped away. But in those initial meetings and the emails that followed, there was one email chain that was coming through, and there was a WAPOL police officer CC'd into that meeting, into that email, just out of the blue. Email about trying to get media coverage for the event, and we need to put it up on Facebook ASAP, that kind of thing. So this was before the organisers had gone to the police officially to get the permits. And all of a sudden, a WAPOL email address popped up in a chain when we were discussing plans for the event. That set alarm bells off in my head. It's a bit of a stretch to say someone accidentally CC'd a bloody WAPOL officer. So I'm not trying to be all tinfoil hat here, but I was very concerned from the start about how much WAPOL were involved in that event, and took me that just took me out of supporting it entirely once that came through. I don't think we should be working closely with the police when they are the ones who've been writing the laws. We all know that's what happened in WA. The police were very active in giving the list to Police Minister Paul Papalia about what they want, which is not how democracy should work. The government and politicians are the ones who write the laws, and the police are the ones who enforce them. Yes, they can have their views and opinions too. They are a stakeholder in this, understand that. But when the police's opinions and views are weighed heavily above what the people who actually use firearms want, that's where the imbalance came in. So I was very concerned about the involvement of WAPO in that event. And that email, I wasn't going to go public with that because I do respect keeping some things private. But after the comments I saw from a member of Shooters Union on Facebook, just absolutely trashing me and making me out to be some nut job, I'm not going to sit back and take it. So that's my response to you. And I don't think he can even see this because I blocked him. Because the thing about free speech is you can say whatever you like, but I don't necessarily have to listen. So you can go and trash my name on other pages. Good luck to you. I'm the one fighting for shooters and hunters. You're being a coward sitting behind the keyboard, being a mouthpiece for the establishment. So good luck to you. So Glenn Leslie, g'day Glenn. Rally was underwhelming. That's right, you did message me about if going to that. Rally was underwhelming, just basically saying to vote Labor out. Way too many gun owners were too scared to show up. Yeah, and I think they were rightfully scared because of the things that I listed. It also didn't have the support of any other shooting organizations for other reasons too. Not that I necessarily agree with that. But the timing of it, I mean, it's a month out from the election. It should have been done 2 years ago, 3 years ago when that doxing event happened. And this is the other problem we're seeing, right? Is why is it taking so bloody long for our shooting organizations to do something that we can participate in as paid members? It's all very well for them to sit back and say, we're handling it, we're going to the private meetings, we've got it under control. And then it ends up looking how it is. Air rifles category D, 10 millimeter safes if you own more than 2 handguns. You can't own more than 5 guns if you're a hunter, up to 10 guns for competitive shooters, but you have to prove why you need each one. The health check form. Sorry, but you've let us down and you've kept us out of everything all along the way. For 3 years now, this has been going on, and we are in a worse position now than we were back in 1996. That's how far it's gone. So you cannot, as a shooting organization, sit there and say, leave it to us, trust the Nationals, come to this rally a month out from the election. That's the best thing we as individuals can do. No, there are thousands other things individuals could do. Look what I'm doing as an individual by myself. I'm not saying everyone has to do this because I do not recommend it if you want a professional career in Australia. Leaves you in very awkward circumstance life wise, but there are other things people can do. Bombarding their local member with emails, making appointments to see them and have meetings, having a rally 3 years ago after they bloody doxed us, having public forum meetings so we can come along, not just the Nationals, but other politicians, organising something where the people can participate in democracy. That's what it should be. And that's why I've organised my Firearms Forum Town Hall event that I've been putting up on Facebook. So I, as an individual, have organised to have lead upper house candidates sit in one room, sit down and answer the people. I can have 250 people in the room, plus I'll be live streaming it so everyone can participate in democracy, and ask the candidates who are vying for your vote, what are you going to do about the gun laws? Put them in a room and people can ask a question. I've got Nick Gorian from the Liberals. He's the only one who's been standing up for us in Parliament from the Liberals there. He's gone against his own party leader, Libby Medham, who's publicly said she won't repeal the gun laws, and he's promising a full review. He's coming to the rally because I formed a relationship and I'm in a coalition with people who want to advance liberty and get rid of these gun laws, and he's one of them. He's coming along to that event because I asked him to, not because of any organization. I've got Stuart Austell, Shooters and Fishers and Farmers Party. He's been in the trenches for the party for years and he's finally their lead candidate. He's personally affected by the gun law, so you can imagine the stress and pressure he's under. And he's doing some great work behind the scenes with all the wheeling and dealing that goes on. He's just committed to one thing, and that's having less Labor commies in Parliament after the election. Of course, he wants to be in there, but some of the things that he's doing behind the scenes to ensure that Labor do not win as many seats as last time, hats off to him. He is a martyr for the cause. So, full respect. And he'll be at that event speaking. Marika Gronwald from the Australian Christian Party. She's got other issues that are more pressing to her members of her party, but guns is something that has been raised with her directly by people in her party that are affected. Christians and conservatives are typically aligned with us and our views on private property rights. She's coming along to talk because I've met her at events. I went to state and church events in Perth because I do align with the Christians on especially free speech, their right to practice their religion without fear of getting prosecuted because it offends a minority who doesn't agree with their religious teachings. She's coming along to that event. Jim Matters, who's a legalised cannabis representative running in Secret Harbour against Police Minister Paul Papalia. Such a big seat to run in. It's a 3-horse race still. So he's coming along because the brilliant Dr. Brian Walker is at another event that week. It's very close to the election, the 27th of February from 6 o'clock at the Rhein Donu or the German Club. So he'll be there. He'll be great to hear what his plan is for going up against the police minister. Ryan Burns from the Libertarian Party, I know he was at the rally on Saturday. I would love to hear what he said. If anyone's in the chat and has a video of his speech, I would love to see what he said. Of course, I was the Liberal Democrat candidate for the 2022 Senate election, and the Libertarian Party is a derivative of David Leyonhjelm's former party. I would love to hear what he said, but he'll be in the room too, speaking to voters about what the Libertarian Party's position is on all of this. And I've also confirmed Rod Caddies from One Nation gave me a call on Friday. We had a great chat, and he's coming along too, and he's fully aligned with a review, and he wants One Nation have typically been supportive of gun owners. So it'd be great to have him there, and he is coming. This is something that I have put together for you, the people and the voters of Western Australia, entirely on my own. I am praying to the Lord above that one of the shooting organizations I've been working with will help me put on this event because it costs money. That's the reality of the world we live in. I do so much for free for you, and I'm living technically. I'm homeless. I'm staying with my dad, and we're paying him by tearing down his shed so we can put up a new one. That's what my husband was doing all weekend today. So we're technically homeless. We're living with family and friends in Australia. That's what we've been doing since we got back from the United States, where we met. So this is what I'm doing for you as an individual, but I cannot do it alone. I cannot keep doing it without support. So I'm hopeful that the shooting organization that I've done so much work for already to help influence the election for outcomes that benefit us, the people, and people who support liberty, I'm hopeful that they will come to the table because I'm at the point now, especially after yesterday, I'm at the point now where I cannot continue to do this unless the people with the money basically can support me. I just simply cannot afford to. But I'm going full steam ahead with the event Thursday, 27th of Feb. I'll put up another link to the tickets tomorrow. I'm hoping I can drop that ticket price down. That all depends on your organizations if they want to support this event. And a lot of them, they all see the merit in it. They definitely see more merit in this kind of event in a private venue with 6 candidates coming to talk to the people about gun law specifically, not outside in a park, no CCTV, completely private. You can ask questions of the candidates. It won't just be me getting stuck into them, although I might a little bit. But I need the support of the organizations to keep doing this work because I've sacrificed so much, and it gets to the point where I have to make sure that I have a roof over my head, food in my belly, and that's what it comes down to. Sorry, I'm ranting away already. Quit fired up tonight. I'll have a look through the questions. A lot has come through. You are so Jabber 430. You are misquoting Mr. Brown. Also, that is not what he said. I have the video that was sent to me, and he did say chew you up and spit you out when it comes to politics. So I'm happy to put that up after. I will not be called a liar. I've got the docs, bro. And he did say, yeah, meaning the individual is innocent. And I'm just likening it to what they did to me. And I have every right to do that. If I told you some of the things that they've done to me, I mean, I can't even get into it because I've got legal threats against me, which is what you do when you try and silence someone. So, yeah, thank you for that, Jabba. Shooter Down Under, hello again, one of my regular listeners. Thanks for joining me. Happy Sunday. Few know this, but in the 1930s, the WA government passed what was at the time the toughest gun control laws in the country, and shortly thereafter, we had the Emu War. There you go, good. I love a bit of history lesson. There was also a time, just to spurg out about Australian history, um, where Indigenous Australians were not allowed to own firearms, and that was a WA law from memory. And of course, during World War II, Germans and Italians who lived in Australia were also disarmed, if even though they had no proof of links to the Nazi or the fascist party, they were disarmed too. So the government do sometimes target minorities, and that's an example. Catherine Cavaney, are you back in Perth? Not yet, Catherine. I am back the 24th of February. That date is locked in. I cannot change it. So I will be back from the 24th. I've got the Town Hall Firearms Forum event on the 27th. And then, of course, the election on the 8th. So I'm sure I'll be very busy meeting with the candidates and all my friends back there. So I cannot wait to be back in Perth. It's been nearly a year since I left, too. So Shooter Down Under, I'm very familiar with the guy who was trashing you, who I won't even name. I'm also very familiar with him personally, and I know he's not to be trusted. And let's just say he's in quite a lot of trouble. That's why I haven't named him either. He knows who he is, and like I said, what has he done to advance liberty or to protect shooters and hunters? I think you'll find the answer is next to nothing. Glenn Leslie, appreciate all the help you're doing, Kate. Like Aussie Review said before, shooters are our own worst enemies, and just too many just won't help each other and candidates that speak for us. Yep, and that's something that my dad has said to me too. He said, you'll be surprised to find out, Kate, that the worst enemies of shooters are shooters themselves. Not the commies, not the anti gun movement, not the vegan, not the animal activists. It's people within our own community. And I had a bit of a therapy session on Friday with one of my mates who worked within a shooting organization for quite a few years, and he feels the same. And it just burns you out. You get so defeated, and you sometimes wonder, why am I even bothering? What It's so hard when, especially for my generation and younger, I'm nearly 40 now. Scary to say. Well, I'm 37, but I'm just saying I'm nearly 40, so I can be okay with it when it happens. But for our generation, and we're the ones who are going to live with these laws longer than the older generation, but we haven't really been part of the process of the consultation of defending our liberties at the table with governments, because a lot of the volunteers and people who run the shooting organizations are older, they've acquired their wealth. Good for them. They lived in a time when that was possible in Australia to buy a home and all the rest of it. So it's very hard for the younger generation to have the time to volunteer to help the fight. And then we end up in a situation where it's entrusted to the older generation who might have different priorities than us and might not be thinking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm literally sitting here wondering if by the time I have children, will I even be able to teach them the skill of hunting like my dad did? Will I even be able to teach them how to shoot and handle a firearm safely? Or will it just get to the point in Australia where we are so restricted and it's too difficult to get a gun, and the government has made it out of reach for many Australians, that it just destroys an entire culture and it destroys hunting traditions, something that the hunter gatherer, that's what we came from. Hunting has been a part of man since the dawn of time. So that's something that I think about, and I don't think that the leaders of our shooting organizations and the establishment, they're not going in with that mentality. nor are they going in with the mentality of how does it affect individuals. When the veterans were disarmed in Western Australia, some of the messages and conversations I had with those men who serve for our country were just devastated, heartbreaking to be treated like that by the government that you served overseas. This is the kind of thing we're talking about. It's an emotional thing. It's something very personal that we do, and we shouldn't have to justify to the state why we should be allowed to continue to do something, a tradition that's as old as time, something that's part of our culture. We shouldn't have to be in this position. That's what I mean by the injustice. And that's what keeps me going is when I see injustice, especially towards a community like the shooters and hunters, who are the ones out there providing a public service, who are helping our farmers on the weekend, who are out there protecting native species by eradicating pest species, who are controlling native species numbers when they get too big and it destroys our wildlife. This is something that we do voluntarily, that we do for free, not even for free, that we pay for our own equipment, our ammunition, that we practice with our firearms so that we're ethical about the things that we do. And when I see governments come in with a heavy hand or the boot of the state on our necks, which is what's happening in WA, because they have a philosophical opposition to what we do and they don't listen to the people who provide evidence that shows no, the 5 gun limit will be inhumane for hunters. Even the RSPCA WA acknowledges that. When you see governments keep going down their own line without listening to the people, and the shooting organisations who are meant to be protecting and promoting the shooting sports, that's SSAA's mantra, that's when I say we have a problem with the establishment, we have a problem with how democracy works, and that's why I feel it's my duty to say, speak, tell my truth from all my years of experience, including working for SSAA National, working for Shooters Union up in Queensland, working in politics for Senator David Lynhelm, Aaron Stonehouse in WA, David Limbrick in Victoria. I mean, my resume is quite substantive, but I'm sitting here in my dad's gun room trying to keep up the fight by myself because my professional career was destroyed following my Senate campaign and following some nasty politics that one day, I will be able to go public with. Sorry, I'm going on my rants again. So, Liam Milwaukee, I'm going to the reform. I'm very excited and have been trying my hardest to get my non-shooter mates to tag along. Are you talking about my Firearms Forum Town Hall, Liam, just to clarify? Hopefully you're coming along. I'll be there hosting it. I don't know if that's a selling point or not because these candidates that I've listed so important. I'm so interested to see what they have to say about what their plan is if they're elected. And to be fair, all of them, well, everyone has a chance. You can't really predict politics anymore. There's lots going on behind the scenes with preferences and all that kind of thing. So who knows? But it would be great to have those candidates who might be in the next parliament, have them answer your questions. So, Liam, if you're coming to my town hall event, I'll see you there. The beers are good too. That is a selling point. I can say that for sure. Hello, if you're just joining me, happy Sunday night. I'm Kate Vantanell, Lady Liberty Australia, live streaming from my dad's gun room. Yes, that is a Beretta case behind me. Yes, that's me shooting a belt fed for my Lady Liberty 2025 calendar. You can still get that on my website, ladyliberty.com.au. So, hello, thank you for joining me. Hope everyone's had a good weekend. Shooter Down Under, I'm convinced that we need to be doing much more than fight for our guns. We need to get a Privacy Act, and there needs to be a Royal Commission into WAPO. Yes, so WA, I've said it a few times before, but I'll repeat it again if you're joining the first time. WA is the only state that does not have privacy laws. That is why back in 2022, when the Police Minister Paul Papalia directed the Firearms Registry to release addresses of where all our guns are stored to the media, who printed a map on the front page where you could identify where rifles, shotguns, and pistols were being stored. They even used different colors for each. They were given that much information, terrifying to think about. When that information was publicly released, or it is actually called doxing, they did not break any privacy laws because WA has no privacy laws. And the federal laws, the Commonwealth laws, that the Labor Party had done their homework and they were not in breach of that either. So, yes, I agree, Shooter Down Under, we do need to have a look at privacy. I mean, if we're in the position that we are in WA, where the police can legally release that information at the request of the police minister, and the other scary thing is, with the extra information that the police will be requesting from April 1 for people to retain or get a firearms license, which is your private medical record. Has anyone else seen that health form? I showed it to my dad and he was horrified. This is getting into very, very dangerous territory when that kind of information about our health, including mental health, if we've ever sought help for any mental health issues, which I don't know one person who hasn't had to put their hand up and say, I need help. And especially the last 5 years after what the government put us through. So I'm very concerned about how that information would be stored securely when they blatantly gave it to the media, who then published it in the public at the public arena. And then, of course, we did see there were break-ins and guns stolen after that doxing event, but no one's held accountable. Nobody gets held accountable at all in WA. And I spoke last week about the Floriette shooting, which I'm still disgusted by. I mean, that was a complete failure of the police. Their job is to serve the community and protect us from harm. And they had all the information on that killer and they did nothing. They did nothing. And then for the police minister to blame the old gun laws instead of take accountability and launch an investigation into his police to see why it was so mismanaged. I mean, this is the level of, if you're not from WA, this is what we're looking at here. It's a total police state where the government protects the police and gets them out there wanting people without a stopping and search without a warrant. Like, it's, if you go out in Northbridge, which is the party area, just be very careful. I've had people message me to say that they've been stopped and searched on a night out in Northbridge when they were just walking to another venue, because that's the law now. They don't need to suspect you of carrying anything or doing anything wrong. They have the power, which is just terrifying. I believe that if a person is peacefully going about their business, not hurting anyone, not threatening anyone, then they should be left alone by the authorities and by anyone else around them. That's how it should be. But it's gone so far the other way, and I'm interested to see actually what it will be like when I'm back in WA. I'll be spending a few nights down Northbridge. I'm sure I've got a lot of comedian mates who can't wait to see me. So I'll be out and about and I'll just have to see for myself how bad it's become. But I have had a lot of people from WA message me about how bad and how different the culture has been, because that's what the government's done. They've changed the culture into the police is no longer your friendly Bobby, as the UK call them. Can you help me with directions, police? It's very much turned them into a weapon against the people. And that was my concern about the gun rally. And that's why I'm still concerned about the information that WAPOL managed to get out of those people that attended just through their CCTV. So that's the times that we're living in. I don't want it to be like that. This is Orwellian. I don't want us to have Big Brother watching us. I want to be able to gather peacefully and protest. But when you have to consider the reality that we're in now, you have to do things that protect yourself and your family, because no one is coming to save you. Ira, hello, Ira. Looking forward to seeing you guys soon in WA. Yes, and Ira wants me back on his show. I did a podcast. Gosh, I don't know how long ago it was now. Ira, 3 years ago? Time just flies. I went on his show. Such a great show. If you want to chuck the link in the comments, Ira, do so. This was so long ago. I don't even remember what I said, but he said it was a great conversation. He's from WA. I think he's that Hills bloke, if I remember correctly. So thank you for having me on your show. I have to come back again because you're such a great conversation. I love going on podcasts like that where it's just a conversation. And I went on one last week, the week just gone, Hunter's Campfire podcast that should be coming out next Friday. Hopefully, we had a few technical difficulties. We were recording one night, the internet crashed. I think the state was shutting me down. And then we recorded the rest of it Thursday night. So that was really great to chat. I always love talking to the hunters. My good mate Zach Williams, he was on my show the other week, so I love having a chat. And if anyone wants me on their shows, please let me know. Shooter Down Under, have you spoken with Ozzy? Not actually. I haven't spoken to him since we did our live stream a few days before Christmas, which was when the WA firearms regulations came out. So this was the 23rd of December. You can have a look. It's up on my YouTube. It's on Facebook. I also have Spotify for those who prefer listening instead of watching, which I'm more of a listener and I hate watching myself. So I always go for the audio when I have to rewatch things. Haven't spoken to him since that live stream, but I highly recommend if you're a shooter in WA or anywhere actually to have a listen or watch that episode we did because we were just I mean, he gets to the same point as I do. We've been doing it for so long in this fight alone. He's not sponsored by anyone either, by the way. He does have a good relationship with Shooters Union, much better than I. But yeah, if you want to rewatch that, that's worth listening to if you want the ins and outs of what's happening in WA with the regulations and the Firearms Act, because we go through that in very specific detail. It's not for everyone, it's more just for shooters and hunters. But yeah, I haven't spoken to him. I've kind of been, he's very busy. I've kind of been leaving him alone, but he's always welcome to call me. He knows that. And I'm always grateful for his advice too. Even when we don't agree, we're still two different individuals. I know people try to merge us into one. That he does some great work up where he is in Queensland. So I'm glad to call him my friend. He's a bloody legend. Catherine Kavanagh, better getting older than the alternative, Kate. I know. And growing old is a blessing. I'm grateful for that. So I'm still not ready for the big 4-0. So I've got 3 years before I have to worry about that. And at least I think I look younger than I am, which is sometimes a detriment, especially if you want to be taken seriously. So Evil Robbie 21. Love your work, Kate. Hang in there. We'll donate tomorrow. Thank you, Evil Robbie 21. Um, I do also have, speaking of donations, you've given me the perfect segue, Evil Robbie 21. I have also launched, which I haven't spoken about yet tonight, my legal action fundraiser against WA's gun laws. So, just a quick summary for those who haven't heard yet. Because I'm not running as a candidate in the WA election, which I've gone over in my last streams, if you want to catch up on all that political goss, I am in a position now to launch legal action against the gun laws. So, what does that mean? It means that I have got a team of lawyers, including a King's Counsel, who are going to look at the laws and the regulation, the act and the regulation, and go through line by line with me as well. I've already started doing this and identify areas where we can challenge the laws in the courts in WA. I am talking about WA court based challenges. Everyone should be aware there is a High Court Challenge fundraiser that's doing some great work separately, and we are in communication too. So you can be assured that we are working together and not doing the same thing. We are working together but separately on our own challenges. The reason why I've gone with my team of lawyers and their suggestion about WA state based challenges, which is example is the Supreme Court, is because I believe, from my understanding of laws, I've been policy advisor. I've worked for a number of politicians, reading acts and regulation, including at SSAA National, where I had to know all the state and territory firearm laws. This is something that is my expertise. So I'm working with my team of lawyers, and my fundraiser is to raise enough money to fund the King's Counsel, who is one of the highest levels of lawyers you can get, to write a letter of opinion about areas where he believes we can have successful challenges in the courts. I have waived my client privilege of the information that I will receive from the King's Counsel so I can share that publicly with you, the shooters and hunters who are affected by the laws, who are in a position and who want to take these challenges to court. An example, I've given a few in my other streams, but another example is the requirement that now they can judge if you're worthy of having a firearms license based on your physical ability. Now, we have anti discrimination laws in Australia. You cannot discriminate against someone on the grounds of physical ability or inability. We all know we have fantastic Paralympic shooters who represent our country in the Olympics and Commonwealth Games. They are at risk of losing their firearms license if they reside in WA because of their physical ability. And that is part of the new laws. This is human rights territory. This is discrimination territory. So that is one area that my lawyers and I are already looking at. I will be putting up a post next week about areas that you think we should look into so that my lawyers can have a look at that for you. I'll be putting up a link next week where you can put in your recommendations. I've already received quite a bit of messages and emails from people giving me ideas about where they believe it can be challenged and lawyers they've spoken to separately. So I have launched that legal action fundraiser so I can get this high level advice, which we do not have. It is the missing piece of the puzzle. As shooting organisations are focused on the political solution on March 8th, unfortunately, the reality is these laws will be effect on the 1st of April. It is not going to be the priority of the new government, whichever way it falls, to look at the Firearms Act and tear the laws up on day one, which is what I want. And I know a lot of other people want that too. It's not going to happen. It will take at least 4 years for the new parliament to review the laws, which a lot of the minor parties and members of the Liberal Party are promising a complete review, including looking at the consultation period and seeing if that was done democratically. I think we all know the answer to that. So that the political solution is not the only solution we can be focused on. And I've been convinced by my team of lawyers, and I've spoken to 4 other lawyers separately to these lawyers I'm working with, because I know lawyers have about as much trust as politicians and car salesmen. I know a lot of politicians, and one of my best mates is a car salesman, and he doesn't fit into this territory. But I've spoken to other lawyers to get other opinions. I'm not going into this blind and just throwing all my eggs in one basket and hoping that will be the solution. I am working on political solutions. I've worked with an organisation in WA about donating to candidates who support getting rid of the gun laws. I've been doing that as well. But my focus at the moment is on raising enough money to fund this letter of opinion so we can have that advice on where we can challenge these laws. And my promise to you, and I've already waived my client privilege, it's not just information that's I'm going to use for myself, it's for the people. I feel that is my duty. So if you can donate to that, there's a link on my Facebook page, GoFundMe. I think I'm about 17,000. So getting there, and the sooner I can raise enough money, the sooner I can get this advice written, the sooner I can share it with you, and the sooner we can get the cases before a judge. So I really want the first case to be before the judge on April 1. That's my timeline. That's what I hope, and I'm hoping I can achieve. When I'm back in Perth, I'll be going around to the gun shops. I've already received so much support from some of the big gun shops over there and the ranges too. So I'll be hustling. And if anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to message me. I'm happy to explain uh, what I hope to achieve with legal action. So that's another update for you. Oh, my voice is getting tired now. Unsound engineer, when you hit 40, the next birthday after goes backwards. I'm 23. I like that. My other favorite saying is you're only as old as the person you're feeling. And I used to say that to Senator David Leyonhjelm and it would crack him up. So if we go by that definition, then I'm 33 because Mr. Liberty is a bit younger than me. Yay. Oh, to be 33 again. Oh, Liam, thank you for telling me how to pronounce your last name. Milwaukee. Did I do that right? Definitely will be coming in. You've been a big influence. Helped me to be more proud of my sport and coming out more, not to the extent of you. I take my hat off to you. Owe you a beer. Yes. Thank you, Liam. And that's the other thing. I had a great chat on Campfire podcast about how we have been typically a very private community because after 1996, if you said you were a gun owner, you were shunned by society. We were almost like lepers. I remember 1996. I remember my dad having to hand in guns and seeing him a peaceful person who spent his life educating children, having to give up firearms because of the actions of someone else. That has stayed with me forever, and that's probably where I get my passion from. Because if you hurt my dad, oh, I have liberty and family tattooed here, and that's the things that I will defend to my last breath. So I'm glad that you've been more proud of who you are, and that also helps educate the general public. And this is another criticism I've had of the shooting organizations is they haven't done enough to educate the general public not to be scared of us. So when it comes time for an election like we have coming up in WA and all the stories in the West Australian newspaper about shootings and remember that story about apparently a kid brought a gun to school. Don't really know what ended up happening with that, but the fear campaign so that people are trained and propagandized into thinking to be scared of firearms no matter the context. And we saw that the other week with that Gun Control Australia report about more guns in Australia now than 1996. And they leave out the most important, crucial point. These are guns held by lawful owners, and we have so much restrictions on us. Too many, if you ask me. We are peaceful people conducting our activities in private because we have a culture now in Australia which has come from the government since 1996 to almost be ashamed of the fact that we're hunters, to be ashamed that our sport is shooting at targets on the weekend. That's not okay. We should be able to talk about what we do because we're peaceful people hunting at the moment. A lot of hunters are going out and putting food on the table in a cost of living crisis because otherwise their family would not be able to eat meat. I'm living off venison and goat that my dad has hunted as food for the table because that's the position I'm in financially. What am I going to eat? Uh, Noodles? No, I'm grateful that I have a dad who has taught me the skill of hunting as well so that I can go out and provide food for the table for my family. So we shouldn't be ashamed of what we do. Even sport shooting, I'm a proud pistol shooter. I've won medals for my sport. I'm not going to shy away from that. And when people get a bit weird about that, I asked the question, have you ever been to a shooting range? And a lot of the time, conversations I have with my girlfriends, they're like, no, we're too scared. Like, we wouldn't know what to do. It's typically a very male environment. We're shy of shooting around men. So, inviting your friend to the range, just showing them how safe it is. And if you take a friend to the range, especially shotgun shooting, that's a great one, especially clay targets, because it's a you can see visually see what you can achieve with a gun and you're taught how to handle that safely. And I've always been a little bit scared of shotguns because I had some bad um, kickback when I was younger. I didn't have it quite in my shoulder properly. So, and that still happens to me as an adult sometimes. It's not my strongest discipline. So I understand where the fear comes from, especially for women. Walking into a gun range or a gun shop can be intimidating. So anything that you can do as an individual to educate your friends and family, just have the conversation about what you do and why you do it. I think that's great. And I'm glad that I've inspired you, Lee, and that's made me a lot happier than the start of my stream. So thank you. And yes, we'll have a beer at the German Club. Yeah, Catherine Cavaney, what the F? Please share the health form. They have the same for driver's license now. If you have ADD, ADHD, or autism, which doesn't impede your ability to drive, is that I'd be interested to know, Catherine, if you're in WA or what state they've brought that in for, because I'm not aware of that. I will put up the health form because it is very intrusive. It asks if you've ever had heart medication, if you've ever seen an optometrist, a physio. It's very, very detailed. If you've ever taken illicit substances, that's the kind of level which also creates an issue for people who take medicinal ugh, medicinal cannabis. So I'm getting, how long have I been going for? Over an hour. That's when I start to fade. So the health form for the firearms license in WA asks if you've ever taken illicit drugs. And this is the concern I have about medicinal cannabis patients, which Dr. Bryden Walker from Legalised Cannabis Party has been very vocal about in the parliament, because it is a legitimate medicine now in Australia. Um, it has proven effects, especially for people with sleeping problems. It helps with anxiety. I know a few people who take it to relax because they can't relax naturally, so that kind of thing. So I'm very concerned that people who use medicinal cannabis will be barred from owning firearms because of the link. And there's also the point that I have to make is that we do not operate firearms under the influence of anything, anything. And I know that governments typically use, especially when it comes to cannabis, that it can stay on your system 2 weeks after you've smoked it, which they use to take away people's driver's license too. If you get pulled over at a random drug testing and you test positive and you haven't taken anything for 2 weeks, any cannabis for 2 weeks, you can lose your license. Interestingly, in Canada, they they just do a sobriety test, so they get you to walk in a line outside the car, and it's so normalized in Canada that even I know some of my mates in the Navy said that then when they've docked at ports in Canada, they have a section for smokers, including cannabis smokers, and that's in the military over there. So we have a similar culture to Canada, and I hope one day Australians can be at the point where we treat cannabis as a drug that adults should be able to use if they want to, because bodily autonomy, you have the right to do with your body whatever you see fit as long as you are not hurting anyone else. Oh, thanks, Pig Hunter. I donated this week, but will contribute some more next week. Love what you do. Thank you. And thank you for what you do. If you're a pig hunter, as your name suggests, they're a big problem up in Queensland. When I was up there briefly, spent time with Aussie Reviews, I know that there's a big pig problem up in Queensland. So thank you for doing what you do. They are terrible pests. I've seen the damage they do to the environment. So thanks for getting out there and doing what you can to get rid of that terrible animal. Oh, Catherine, you are in WA. You did letterboxing and handed out HTV cards. Thank you, Catherine. Who did you do letterboxing and how to vote cards for? Was it me back in the Senate in 2022? I'm sorry if I don't remember. It was such a long time ago. I had some great volunteers. I had this one volunteer who went to pre-poll for 2 weeks and handed out how to vote cards from 8 till 6 a.m. every day for 2 weeks. And then election day, he was the first one there at the booth handing out how to vote cards on election day. Um, he was just bloody brilliant, and he's the kind of person that I always think about when I'm feeling a bit down because I know I do have my supporters. It just gets a bit hard sometimes when you see some of the hate you get from your own people on social media. Oh, Shooter Down Under, I know all about how society treats gun owners in Australia. I had a junior's permit when I was in high school and I largely kept it a secret. I was exposed and it nearly ruined my life. Yeah, see, that's the kind of culture that we should not tolerate. You should never feel exposed or ashamed of legal activity and ethical activity and something that you're just interested in. And this is the other thing that I get quite upset about is I would never tell anyone how to live their life. If you're from the city and you like spending your weekends going shopping in the mall or having brunch with your friends, like good luck to you. I like spending my Sundays at the range with my dad shooting metallic silhouette. So please don't tell me that I can't do my activity peacefully and something that I love doing with my father because you're from the city and you don't understand. If you want to understand, you're welcome to join me. But tolerance is a two-way street. I will always tolerate what other people do as long as they're not forcing it on anyone else or hurting on anyone else. But I find sometimes, particularly with the left, unfortunately, because I do agree with some of the things the left advocates for, especially when it comes to bodily autonomy, which is a bit blurry these days if they still believe that or not. But I get very disappointed when the tolerance is only one way. Oh, yes, me. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for all your help. And you're the lifeblood of campaigns, by the way, the volunteers. So that's another reason to come along to my Town Hall Firearms Forum on the 27th of February at 6 p.m. at the German Club in Perth, as you'll get the chance to hear from all those candidates I listed, and I'll do another post on social media about it. You will have the chance to talk to them, and if you like what they're saying and you want to help them get elected, this is what you need to do. And I know the rally promoted this too, was you need to be out there in the streets handing out how to vote cards on election day. A lot of voters make up their mind when they're walking into the booth and when they're handed a piece of paper with how to vote on it. That is so crucial. That does have an impact on election day. I also read some statistics that between 55 and 70% of people are expected to vote early in WA before the election on the 8th of March. So if you've got time, if you don't want to do election day because it's a Saturday and you've got other commitments, consider doing a few hours during the week during pre-poll because that's such an important time too. I know when I ran for the election, I was going around to pre-poll and just the number of people that were showing up to vote early because we have that right in Australia. I mean, I don't think anyone should be forced to vote. I think we should have optional voting, but it's probably a conversation for another time. But this is a chance on at my event to see what candidates you want to support and get out there and support them to get them elected because the more politicians we have elected that support us, shooters, hunters, firearm freedoms, liberty, that's a win for all of us. So have a look, see what you can do. Everything helps. If you want to get political active, perhaps my next live stream, I can do a bit of a go through of what that looks like because I was the leader of the Liberal Democrats in WA back in 2022. So I've run a party. Of course, I work for Senator David Leyonhjelm, who ran the Liberal Democrats. So I've learnt so much from him. I'm his little protege. So I can definitely provide advice for people who want to get politically active. I have been going for over an hour now. I'm getting very tired, so I might wrap up. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. My name is Kate Fantanel, or Lady Liberty, if that's easier for you to say. And I'll be doing these weekly live streams to have a chat about everything, especially WA. I know I've been very focused on WA, but that is my home state. That's still the place I call home. I cannot wait to be back on the 24th of February. I know I'm going to cry when I get off the plane. And I'll be doing everything I can between now and then to keep fighting for you, You are the reason I'm still doing this. I mean, after yesterday and some of the comments that I saw on social media about me because I went up against the establishment and opposed the rally, it does get to you sometimes. And it just reminded me of Charlotte Dawson. If you don't know who she is, you should look her up. She um, committed suicide because of the attack she got on social media. So we just have to remember at the end of the day, we're all human. There is someone sitting on the other side of the keyboard. So have your own opinion, go for it. I believe in free speech. Say what you want as long as you're not inciting violence, go for it. Have whatever opinion you want in the world. But just remember that words do hurt. So keep it respectful and civil debate. That's how we can progress as a society. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all soon.